we will be viewing coverage for employees and viewing the coverage history. I'm using the demo case as I always do. So you can easily go to the enrollment tab, to your employee tab, and you can search for an employee, or you can see your recently viewed employee, and that employee will pull up and allow you to view the coverage and coverage history. So I will use one of my test employees on this demo case. So here is your employee home screen. This is where you view your employee's main data. But in order to view the coverage that a certain employee has, you would need to click on this coverage tab. And this coverage tab will list out your employee's benefits. So you can see here that this employee has Guardian dental, accident, and life insurance. So from here, you can see the effective date, the deduction date, and the cost. And right here on the coverage option, you can see the tier. So you can see if it's employee only, employee spouse, employee child, or family coverage. Now, if you are questioning an employee's coverage or prior coverage, you would have to click this Show Coverage History box for the system to identify that you need to see old coverage as well. So you can see here that this employee had employee child health coverage here, and then this coverage terminated on 4/7. You can also see that they had changed that coverage to the, and this coverage was updated 4/8 because the other coverage turned on 4/7. So here, you know, the life event was made to change the coverage tier and add the family, but the coverage itself completely terminated on 4/30. So here's how you would see coverage versus coverage history. You do have to be careful though, because it does show current coverage along with prior coverage. So you know the one that is marked out with a line would be the prior coverage or coverage history, and the one that does not have a marked out line would be the one that is current. So you always have to keep that straight when reviewing the coverage history. Then you can always uncheck the box so that you only have a view of the coverage. And then the second part of this would be forms. So you will always want to check and make sure that your employees' forms are up to date. If you did do a life event or if they had some sort of coverage change, you want to make sure that the form was signed. And you can see the forms here on the Forms tab. And as you can see, each time a life event is performed or coverage is changed in the system, a new confirmation form is generated. The difference on this screen than on the coverage screen is you don't have to click a box so you can see prior confirmation statements. All confirmation statements are kept here, all on one screen. The ones with the line marks through them, as I'm indicating here, will show you the ones that are no longer valid. And the only valid one would be the one without the line through it. Also, you're able to see when the form itself created, and along with that, you can see when the employee also signed this form. So if your employee went through the process and the form was generated, but they failed to sign and they're in an incomplete status, there will be no employee signature here. It's always imperative that the employee or the one performing the life event or enrollment signs the confirmation form. So as an HR manager, you would be the one that would sign on behalf of the employee when conducting a life event. Along with that, when employees utilize our enrollment call center, whoever's performing the enrollment will also sign on behalf of the employee, and it'll be stored here. You will also see the enroller's name over on here, so we can always refer back to an enroller if there's any questions and pull video or any of that information from when they perform the enrollment at the enrollment center. In order to pull it up, just click this Form XML box here, and it'll open in a new screen, and it will pull up your confirmation forms. You'll be able to print or save them from here if you would like to do so. My system is being a little slow at this time, I think, as I'm going through the webinar. Also, with that being said, once you do pull up that form and you do have it, it will also show socials and so forth. So if you plan on emailing that to an employee, you just want to be mindful to protect that because it will have employee socials on there. Does anyone have any questions so far? So I do see that there's a question here that says, so if I made the enrollment change on behalf of the employee, would it reflect my PIN instead of the employee's PIN in the signature column? Yes, it would reflect your PIN in the signature column. So if you are performing the live event and you are in here changing the enrollment on behalf of the employee, you would use your own PIN, which would be the same one that you use to log into the system in the first place. Same with the enrollers, they use their own PIN as well. The only time the employee PIN is used is if the employee, him or herself, has actually logged into the system and is enrolling in benefits. Otherwise, you would always use your admin PIN at that time. Are there any other questions at this time? I know that this training was a little short. There wasn't a whole lot of meat to it. So if you have any questions on prior enrollment trainings that you would like for me to answer at this time, I can do so. If you have any questions about the system, or if you need anything a little more clear or an example done, I'm able to do that as well. Okay, I see another one in here. So in here, it's asking if an HR or an administrator is able to process or change benefits in the system, i.e. a termination, and if an administrator can go ahead and do that, or if we need to send an email to myself or your account manager first. You are able to go and perform a termination as an admin on your own. We do ask that you just shoot over an email to myself, the account manager, or the customer service team, just until we get a good workflow in place, and that way we can just keep note and make sure that everything was processed correctly. I just want to make sure that your employees were in fact terminated correctly and get to the carrier correctly, because I don't want to be any billing issues there. I can show you again today just a quick review of how to terminate an employee in the system. You pull up the employee and you would enter in the termination date over here in the termination column, and then you would change the status. So over here, this employee would go from active to terminated, and you can see all the options here. And you can always just, use reason unspecified, or you can pinpoint the exact reason as well. And you would terminate the employment here, and then click Save. been terminated. And if you wanted to review to make sure that the coverage was also terminated along with the termination of the employee, you can go to your coverage tab. And you can see that now that this employee is terminated, that they have no coverage showing on the current coverage tab. And you do, in fact, have to click the Show Coverage History box in order to see any and all of the history. Now, with that being said, you can also keep an employee current and active without terminating them, just if you want to terminate benefits. So we can make this employee active once again. So if your employee has a reduction in hours and is no longer working enough hours to have coverage, or has gained coverage, there's and you want to terminate just coverage, you would just do the life event option that we reviewed once before. And here, are the several different options, and you would just perform that life event in order to just change the employee's benefits and not their job status. Does anyone else have any other questions? Let's see here. I see another one. Okay, let's see. So once the employee is terminated, there's a question in regards to Cobra. If the employee does elect Cobra after termination, then we would, in fact, do a status change. So from the Employment tab, you would do it in the same area that you would do the termination. And here you would change it to Cobra Start. Here. And click Save. And now the employee is in the Cobra Start position. And from there, this feed over to our Cobra vendor or the carrier and to get the Cobra benefits started. It's always a good idea, again, to email us just so that we have an idea of what's going on, and we just like to follow up everything correctly and the employee has in fact begun its coverages. And then once the employee comes off of Cobra, you would change the status to Cobra End. And if you have an employee that's in a Cobra status during open enrollment, we do have to offer coverage to that employee while in the open enrollment process. So just know and make note of that we do offer coverage to those in the Cobra Start status. I have another question here. What if an assistant manager gets promoted to a general manager? Is that a qualifying event? Yes. So in that instance, that would be a new job status. I changed my job status, salary transferred to a new location. So that's a good question. So this life event covers that. And so usually if you go from assistant manager, which is full-time hourly position, to general manager, which is a full-time salary position, that is a job status change. As well as if they transfer to a new location with or without the job class change. So if at any time you have an employee that changes to a new location, you could also use this life event status here to conduct and perform that. Hi, yes, Vanessa, I see that you said they're both hourly positions. We do have some instances where it is an hourly to a salary type position change as well. But you do want to go ahead and do that a change job status option so that you can change them from into the general manager job class name. Like if you see on the employment tab, sorry, my system's a little slow. It'll change their title to general manager in that instance. If your company is set up to where you are in a part-time hourly position and you move to or if you're in a full-time hourly position and you move to a salary position, at that time, you would offer benefits to that employee. Were there any other questions at this time? I'm just reviewing the questions to see if I missed any. Okay, here's another one. So if an employee gets demoted and he wants to remove his benefits, are they able to do so? Yes, and if an employee gets a demotion and needs to remove benefits, that would also be a life event or a qualifying event, and it is okay to remove benefits at that time. Of course, this is something that HR would have to perform, and the employee could not perform themselves in the system because it is another qualifying event. And you would also need to change job class or department or title in the system as well to reflect anything that's new or changed. Any other questions? I hope I didn't miss anyone's question. If I have missed your question, please let me know, or I can answer any email. If you don't feel comfortable submitting your question here, you can always email me as well. Well, I thank everyone for joining today. I know it was a short training session, but now you should be able to view coverage and coverage history along with the forms and be able to print forms. I'm glad that we got to also visit and touch on other items and questions that everyone else had. You are more than welcome to email me, Dana, myself directly if you have any questions or issues along with our customer service team. And as always, you're more than welcome to reach out to your account manager or your account management team. We are all here to assist. If you have any other items that you feel like I missed, you want to touch base on, please feel free to reach me, and I hope everyone has a great day.